Get full access to RFR only on Patreon. Become a member of the RFR Patreon community to get more Rebel Force Radio. Bonus shows and content are available right now only at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio.
Rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1!
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
I was driving home from the day job today, and I got a text from a friend of mine. It said that Daisy Ridley revealed what Carrie Fisher whispered to her during their big hug. And they had that big hug in The Force Awakens. But apparently there's another hug. I gotta get to the bottom of this. Is there more than one hug? Because I would distinctly remember a hug that happened in The Force Awakens, and it says that there's a previously unused hug.
Yes.
So I need help remembering this, and I'll bring in the big guns here. Of course, here on Rebel Force Radio, this week's show for Friday, July 5th, 2019. Happy Independence Day, belated to our fellow Americans. But I got to get to the bottom of this hug business. So my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack, going to help me weigh in.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Okay, so here's the deal. The hug looks like an alternate take of that same scene from The Force Awakens that they're going to reincorporate as part of the new Carrie Fisher footage that they're going to put into Episode 9.
That's what I was thinking. So We're talking about same wardrobe. I mean, it's just an alternate take of the same hug that we've already seen. This is the infamous hug that happens in lieu of a hug between Princess Leia and Chewbacca.
Right.
That happens right after, we lose Han Solo. So it really is just another take, but it's the same hug.
That's all it is. Yeah, it's another take, same hug. I believe there will be some CGI aging going on with Carrie Fisher, but you can clearly see the hug happen in the Rise of Skywalker teaser. It's in there.
Yeah, right.
That's the other hug. Yeah, definitely with Daisy wearing her Episode 9 wardrobe. And not the baboon-ass hairstyle for Carrie Fisher.
You're talking about Episode 7 wardrobe, not Episode 9 wardrobe.
No, I am, because I'm talking specifically about the hug scene in the Rise of Skywalker teaser trailer.
Oh, so they've altered her look.
Yes. It appears they've altered her hair, and they may have added some additional aging to Carrie's face. But she's clearly hugging Daisy, and Daisy's wearing her Episode 9 wardrobe, the white, whatever that is. I don't even know what to call Daisy's clothes. It's like, is it a shirt? What is that? What are those? I don't even know. The wrappings around the arms?
Yeah, right. The bands. So I get this text. It says, Daisy has revealed what Carrie Fisher whispered to her during the Rise of Skywalker hug. And I wrote back immediately, probably something filthy.
It was like, what was that thing about the monkey? What was she saying? Remember that?
Yeah.
The monkey.
The monkey. That was on the Bad Lip Dubs.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Poop on a stick?
That's it. That's the one. That's what I was thinking. So, yeah.
But so here it is. So Daisy Ridley, she is on the publicity trail right now. We've got some great highlights of Daisy making the rounds. She's not promoting The Rise of Skywalker yet. She's promoting this film, Ophelia.
Right.
And But obviously the subject of Star Wars comes up frequently. And so the question was asked about, what did she say to you? Did she whisper something to you? And Daisy said, "Yeah. So get ready with the beep here, because Auntie Carrie's about ready to talk."
All right, we're ready.
So kids, get the Star Puff earmuffs on. So this is Daisy. She said, "I'm going to do my really bad Daisy Ridley." Yes, she was actually whispering, "This is a fucking long hug." I was trying to do my acting like, "Oh my God, Carrie." There wasn't any discussion about what we were going to do. All right, so there it is. So the quote. So next time you're watching that teaser trailer and you see them hugging, just picture the voice. Listen for the voice of Carrie Fisher. This is a long hug.
Yeah, well, Carrie did not apply filters. Yeah. Whether she was on the convention stage, autograph hall, or even sound stages for the next Star Wars film. She never held back.
And we loved her for that. We loved the honesty and the... There are a few times, where you thought, well, okay, this isn't the time or place, Carrie. Come on. But nonetheless, she was always true to herself. That's for sure. But so, yeah, so this is part of the reveals that are coming out of this big interview with Vulture. So mystery solved. They were comparing it to, the film. What was the movie with Bill Murray? Oh, Lost in Translation. Mm-hmm. So Bill Murray, great movie. Bill Murray, Scarlett Johansson, and there's a scene at the very end where he whispers something to her when they split from one another, and famously, Bill Murray nor Scarlett Johansson has ever said what was supposed to have been said, what was in the script, what they actually said. So they were kind of comparing it to this. Who knows? Bill Murray, I can see him saying something like this. Who can just imagine. But if you're looking for some deep Star Wars canon here to shed some light on the relationship, you're not getting it. It's just two actresses talking.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times on a film set, it's very technical. And, when I see behind the scenes footage of films being made, I always wonder, how do they find time to act with all that's going around them? Mm-hmm. Just recently, online, somebody posted up some great footage from behind the scenes of Return of the Jedi. I don't know where this footage came from, but it was Han and, Harrison, Mark, and Carrie. They were shooting a sequence in the Rebel War Room, where Admiral Akbar and Mon Mothma made their big speeches and stuff. Yeah. And they were showing this part where Luke is embracing Leia, and he's saying, ask me some other time, right? Mm-hmm. And then Han comes into the frame. And the way they were setting up this thing, Harrison Ford was being very technical. He said, well, should I stand here? Should I move in here? Would it be better if I came into the shot like this? And Mark and Carrie are just standing in their spots. Mm-hmm. And so Harrison's going back and forth with the crew, and all of a sudden they just go action, and they're like, all these people, all these crew members are standing around. There's a camera right there, and you see the actors in full wardrobe in that war room location that we're all real familiar with on board the Mon Calamari ship. And all this is happening, and then Harrison walks into this is while they're shooting. Harrison walks into the frame, and the lighting guy has a tape measure, and he goes from the camera right up to Harrison's temple and back, and this is all during the shot. Yeah. And so when you hear stories about, like, Christian Bale losing his mind on the set of a film and going crazy on a crew. Now, sure, of course, it's irresponsible and unprofessional, but you can kind of see how that stuff would happen. These actors have to get into a certain zone. And with all the hubbub and technical stuff happening around them, I don't even know how they find time to act.
Well, it's a good point. And it also, as a theater guy, I can really understand why so many of actors in the world of TV and film, why they're drawn to the stage, because that stuff does not get in your way.
Yep.
But you're right. How do you have time to think about your character? Well, it's just like being an athlete. All of that training and all of that work is done off the field, right? Off the stage. So you're in your trailer or you're in your home and wherever, hotel room, and you're working on the lines and the scenes for the next day's shoot. So that when you're on the field, so to speak, you're not thinking anymore. You're just doing it what you rehearsed before. But it's a real good point. It is amazing that people get any semblance of a performance out of it when it's just constant start, stop, and you got so much stuff going on.
Mm-hmm. So many crew members running around. And like I said, Harrison was talking about where to stand and all of this stuff. And it was just like action right away. Boom. He went from talking to them to shooting the sequence in a matter of seconds. And I was like, man, how do you even get his head together to do that?
Yeah, no kidding.
And then, like I said, here's a crew member with a tape measure coming out to Harrison's head. I'm like, this is insanity.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it really is. We'll have more of Daisy Ridley coming up here in just a few minutes on the program. We also have joining us very soon our pal Kevin Lyle. He's going to be hanging with us for a bit and give his report from the Peter Mayhew Memorial that happened in Texas just last weekend. Peter was remembered by friends, family, colleagues, associates, and this was at the Kavanaugh Flight Museum in Texas. And Kevin was there, and he's going to give us our firsthand report. Plus, we'll check in with Kevin. He's all over the place, and this is convention season, so we'll find out what's going on with him. As we mentioned, more Daisy Ridley coming up. But first, how about a voicemail? Let's hear this is Eric from Phoenix. Let's check in with Eric.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Jimmy. This is Eric from Phoenix, and I just want to say loved the Puppet Lando video from Rancho Obi-Wan, and especially loved the Patreon exclusive behind-the-scenes outtakes with Jason laughing hysterically while he's watching the video for the first time. Awesome job there. But the main reason for my call is I've been thinking about Batuu, Galaxy's Edge, and I've got a coworker and his family that's there right now. This is Monday, the week of the 4th, and can't wait till they get back to hear all about it. But one of the things I got to thinking about was some things that Galaxy's Edge is basically spoiling for Episode 9. Like, number one, the Millennium Falcon survives. Clearly, the Millennium Falcon survives. This is post Episode 9, I believe. Isn't Galaxy's Edge supposed to take place after Episode 9? Chewbacca survives. Rey survives. Kylo Ren survives. They're all at the park. I'm sure there's some other things I'm not thinking about. The rise, the First Order ride. First Order survives. I don't know. Just some things I was thinking about this weekend as I was thinking of Galaxy's Edge. Maybe I have the timeline wrong. Maybe the timeline's after Episode 8, but I don't think so. I think it's after 9. Sure, Disney can change all that stuff, and maybe they will. They're probably going to have to. But it just makes it interesting. I hadn't thought about that. If they want to get it in line with what happens in the next movie, they're potentially going to have to make some changes. Clearly, the Falcon's not going to get destroyed. They're not going to take that out. But anyway, just found it interesting, speculating. Keep up the great work, guys. Bye-bye.
Well, it's a very good question. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words. And yes, so Patreon supporters have the ability to check in and see a special video of Jim kind of threw this at me last week. He said he shared his screen with me. I had no idea what was happening, and then all of a sudden I'm watching the Puppet Lando visit to Rancho Obi-Wan, and so that is legit. I mean, that is I didn't even know he was recording. I didn't know you were recording.
I record everything.
Yes. So that was a real reaction audio, not a reaction video, a reaction audio of me experiencing the Puppet Lando visit to Rancho Obi-Wan for the first time. So that's Patreon exclusive, plus some really fun outtakes at the very end. Anyway, what Eric brings up is canonically, does Galaxy's Edge happen or take place after Episode 9? And if so, doesn't it technically spoil the film because you see the characters that survive? I actually think that it takes place before episode 9.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it sits right after 8.
You're absolutely right. It was announced by Lucasfilm. I think it was via a video called Star Wars Galaxy's Edge Sneak Peek Look. And I think in that video, someone from either Lucasfilm or Disney Imagineer did make the clarification that the events, I should say the events, but like if you were going to place Galaxy's Edge on the Star Wars timeline, it would be happening between episodes 8 and episodes 9. It's the first narrative set after episode 8 in the Star Wars timeline. If you're going to apply, a sort of designation to it, that's the best thing I could say. The narrative for the land that's where it's rooted in, between Ep 8 and episode 9. I don't know if there's flexibility with that. I remember one of the most attractive things about Star Tours was when they did the upgrade, the ability to switch it up every so often to keep it current with what's happening in Star Wars cinematically. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Galaxy's Edge is going to offer that sort of flexibility, but I think we'll see more obvious examples of that particular narrative and the placement on the timeline when the Rise of the Resistance ride finally opens. I think that timeline will make it very clear to you that it happens between episode 8 and episode 9, the things that happen in that ride.
Also, yeah, exactly. And think about the book by Delia Dawson. It's a Star Wars Galaxy's Edge book, Black Spire. I think that is it out yet?
Yeah.
It already came out? Okay.
Well, if it's not out, I have
August 27th. Yeah, I've got the Galley edition myself. So
they sent me an early bird preview copy of that. I haven't.
But it comes out at the end of August, and it does. The events of this novel are right between episodes 8 and 9. This is after the of course, the destruction of the New Republic, and they're desperately in search of allies, and clearly after the end of episode 8. So anyway, so that I think answers Eric's question but he's right. I mean, otherwise it would have been a massive spoiler. But then I point to some of the other Disney, like you said, Jim, in terms of Star Tours, there were, and also, I mean, there are costumed characters throughout, Star Wars costume characters throughout the park, not just at Galaxy's Edge. So they don't have to necessarily be alive, quote unquote, in current Star Wars canon in order for them to have a place. But at any rate, Eric, thanks for the voicemail. Appreciate it.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's good news. Come closer, I have good news.
All right, as we promised, more Daisy Ridley as she promotes her new film, Ophelia. But, of course, the subject of Star Wars is not far behind. And, Jim, you've gathered up some audio clips of various appearances that she's made. We're going to start off with Good Morning America.
Yes. Yeah, she's, like you said, Jason, she's out there doing the rounds for Ophelia, which is based on, it's like a spin-off of Hamlet.
It was Hamlet's girlfriend.
Yeah, and so it just tells that Shakespearean tale, I guess, from her perspective. Mm-hmm. So they did start sneaking in some questions about Star Wars. Most notably, how emotional was it for her to finally wrap it up? She's been working on this trilogy for a few years now and getting to know the cast and crew, everybody like family. So how emotional was it on that final day?
The thing that was really amazing is a lot of the crew did all 3 films, so it was really emotional anyway. But there were a few scenes that we did where everyone was really moved. And, a lot of the time the crew are doing their jobs. So it's not like such an emotional thing. Like, it's more technical. But it was, some bits are, and a lot of it is really moving. I found it very emotional.
There you go.
Because I'll tell you what, with the final episode of the Avengers that just happened with Avengers Endgame, I was shocked at the emotional resonance that movie had. It got to me. As you know, just as someone who's not necessarily a Marvel super fan or anything, I like Marvel just as much as anyone else, but I'm not like deep in the Marvel lore and I don't know everything about the comics and all of that, but I've seen all the movies, and just being connected with the characters and the actors who played the characters going all the way back to 2008's Iron Man, to see that whole story come to a conclusion in Endgame had an emotional punch for me that I was not expecting at all. So I could only imagine if we even get a modicum of that in episode 9, because of my emotional investment in these characters, which goes over the course of 4 decades. If they could even pull off a fraction of what the Russo brothers were able to pull off in the Marvel film, I think it's going to be extremely emotional. It's very interesting to hear Daisy give these little clues about the impact that the conclusion of the Skywalker saga is going to have on us as fans. It's something that I don't think we can prepare ourselves for, really. It'll just hit us like a sledgehammer when it does, if the movie has that kind of effectiveness, which I think it will. I don't think Daisy's blowing smoke here, you know. She talks about things beyond the plot. She also talks about what it was like for her, specifically what it was like on her last day, her very last day shooting The Rise of Skywalker.
Well, John rapped, so I was already like hysterically crying. And then I rapped, and I did a speech, and I cannot remember what I said. I kept going, I'm really sorry, I'm really sorry. The whole crew was there. It was, like, embarrassing. And obviously people recorded it. I still can't tell you what I said. Aww. I was like, I'm just at the bedtime, and it's my own life. I'm really excited.
You have not seen a cut of the film?
No, JJ has shown me a couple bits, which was very exciting. When we went in to go see the trailer, he showed me a few bits. It feels, I don't know if it's because I've done more now, like it's always really hard to watch yourself, but this time I feel it's the most excited I've felt.
So Daisy Ridley doing some ugly crying there on the set of The Rise of Sky. I don't think it'd be possible for Daisy to do ugly crying.
Right. She didn't say she was an ugly crier, did she?
No, but she kind of alluded
Daisy
to that, you know, that it was she was embarrassed.
Yeah, well.
She's crying and she's blubbering and all of that, but she's talking to the crew. I'll bet she's even cute when she cries.
Well, of course she is. Of course she is. And her teeth always look fabulously white.
Man, they're amazing teeth.
She really does.
Kennedy teeth.
I think she has the best teeth in Star Wars. In the entire history of Star Wars.
Sure. Well,
now, of course,
maybe with the exception of that Lando Calrissian action figure from Empire Strikes Back.
Or Bib Fortuna.
Penis teeth.
Bib Fortuna. He had the worst teeth. So, so Daisy was asked the question, will Rey return to Star Wars in future films?
I mean, who can tell? What I would say is I think it's a brilliant end to the story. And like JJ and Chris, who wrote it as well, have done an incredible job of like wrapping it up, because there are so many references, obviously, to the 9 films. Right. But also it exists in its own thing. So I think people are going to feel very satisfied.
Good. Well, yeah, you can't say. I mean, we know as Star Wars fans that's a silly question, because the fact is that it doesn't matter how well they wrap it up. I mean, Episode 6 was wrapped up pretty nicely. It doesn't matter. What matters is if they realize that, or if they think that there's some profit. Let's be honest. You know, it's a business. Star Wars is a business. If there's some profit to be made to put those characters back out there, or there's something interesting, somebody comes. It's not just profit. It's also creative ideas. if there's something, a great story that's just waiting to be told with those characters, they'll be back.
I don't like to think that way. I think that if they want to put finality on the series, the Skywalker saga, they should really do it and give us conclusions for the characters that make it almost impossible for them to continue on. Maybe like Rey ascends to some sort of higher level or something. And
you really want them to? You want them to, no BS. You want this to really be the end. If they're out there talking about it being the end, then really make it the end. No loopholes.
I did hear a rumor, and this could be spoiler territory.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
All right. What I heard was that the concept of resurrection will come into play in episode 9.
Oh.
And I think there are 3 candidates for this. If it happens in the film itself, it could be Rey, it could be Kylo. And like maybe Kylo gets killed off and then comes back as something different.
Mm-hmm.
Like more Ben Solo, more Jedi. Or maybe Luke returns and he's resurrected. But somebody is going to come back to life in this film. And I'm not talking about Palpatine. I'm not talking about the Emperor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Someone other than him. And that's all I know. I have nothing other than just knowing that the concept of legitimate resurrection, not returning as a Force ghost, not returning as a voice in the head, legitimate return. And it was always something that was being kicked around in Lucas's story concepts for Return of the Jedi, but he never actually went there.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, of course, he folded that into the prequels as that became a big part of Anakin's motivation. Was after the loss of his mother, he was hell-bent on making sure that he never suffered a loss like that again, and he wanted to know how to stop people from dying.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a big motivation for him.
I think
and
Luke
that
is
was something that the Emperor promised him.
I think Luke is the most likely candidate to come back from the dead. Because if you bring back someone like Obi-Wan Kenobi and maybe have Ewan return in the role, that cat would be let out of the bag the second Ewan McGregor walked into that soundstage. Same thing with Hayden Christensen and Anakin Skywalker. But there were some heavy rumors during the episode 8 shooting that Hayden Christensen was seen on the stage or he was there at the studios. Now, that could have been for a couple of reasons. Maybe they made a body cast of him to use in Rogue One for that back-to-tank scene.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they were shooting some footage during the episode 8 process to include in episode 9. But that seems most unlikely to me, because what director wants to use another director's footage? That doesn't often happen unless somebody gets fired mid-production or something like that. So,
which happens a lot in Star Wars now.
Well, I guess it is kind of commonplace in Star Wars. But we know J.J. Abrams ain't going anywhere.
No.
And he's going to stick to his guns. The other thing I heard is that the idea of bringing George Lucas back to collaborate happened during the rewrites for Episode 9 that basically took place late last year. That there was some rewrites done. And that it actually may have significantly changed the plot of the entire film. But George was consulted, and his ideas are being incorporated into Episode 9. No question about that. No question about that. Yeah. So,
which might explain why he's showing up at things like the opening of Galaxy's Edge. So he's switched from the talk of white slavers to now. He's warming up to the idea. Let's put it that way. So that might be why.
Yeah.
They came back to kiss the ring, and they got his input.
Maybe
wrapping this all up.
Maybe. I mean, he has appeared at other Star Wars events. I mean, he was, to the best of my knowledge, he was not at the world premiere for Episode 8.
He was not.
He was there for Solo. Ron Howard,
right?
Probably
he was there for Solo,
connective tissue there.
He was there for 7,
but he was not there for Rogue One.
He was not there for Rogue One. He was not there for 8.
He heard we were going to be there for Rogue One, so he said, "Forget about it."
He wasn't going to be there. He wasn't going to be there.
I don't know if those Rebel Force Radio guys are going to be there.
But probably some of the most interesting things that Daisy Ridley has said lately was when she was talking to USA Today. Now, we knew that a big part of the plot of Episode 9 was getting this new sequel trilogy trio together. For one, reuniting Daisy's Rey and John Boyega's Finn together. They had such great chemistry, and the stuff with them in Episode 7 are some of the highlights of that movie. Yes, the whole movie is lifted by the presence of Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford. There's no question. But a lot of it rested on, especially that first third of the film, rested on Daisy and John and their characters' interactions with each other, and they were just fantastic. We all just fell in love with them. So they'll be back together in Episode 9, plus throwing Oscar Isaac in there. They did ask if the subject of Rey's parents, if that was going to be answered, and she said, yes, the question is answered. So at the end of the film, you know what the dealio is. Well, technically, we know what the dealio is now, based on Rian Johnson's answer that he gave us in Episode 8.
Yeah.
This leads me and anyone else with any common sense to believe that that's not the final answer.
No, that's definitely not. That was that's going to be explained as some sort of Kylo Ren smoke screen or Snoke screen, if you will. But that's probably how they're going to wipe that one under the carpet.
Yeah. Now, this was the question and answer that I was the most interested in. This is the first time we've heard Daisy Ridley speak publicly about backlash. The question posed to her was, writer-director Rian Johnson received a ton of backlash online after The Last Jedi, with many fans petitioning to remake the film and redeem Luke Skywalker's character. Were you surprised at all by the controversy? Ridley replies, I wasn't surprised, no. It's just a different thing. Everyone's going to have an opinion now anyways on the internet, but I also think it's fair. If people hold something incredibly dear and they think they know how it should be, and it's not like that, it's fair for people to think that they were done wrong. It doesn't mean they were. Ultimately, Ryan's a filmmaker, and one person can't dictate how a film is supposed to be, but freedom of expression, sure. All right, I'm just going to go on a limb here. And, it was John Boyega who said online, I think it might have been Twitter, someone said, hey, when after Episode 9 comes out, are you going to finally tell the truth of what... Will the actors all tell the truth of what they really thought about Episode 8? And John Boyega said, you bet, or something like that. Like, yes, we will. Now, that doesn't mean that John Boyega is saying, yeah, we're going to come out and we're going to dish about Episode 8 and we didn't like Episode 8. But there is a lot of talk. There is a lot of discussion and rumors that the cast, most notably and most unapologetically, Mark Hamill himself, did not like the direction that Episode 8 took. Now, if you're a big fan of Episode 8, God bless you. I'm not sitting here telling you to not like the film. But Daisy's answer here, I like, because what she's doing is she's at least giving the people who were not happy with Episode 8 oxygen, understanding, and she doesn't jump and start calling them names. She's not out there saying, well, if these people that didn't like Episode 8, they clearly don't like strong female characters. Or they clearly have a problem with, this of color or that of color.
Or they're Russian bots.
Yeah, or they're Russian bots. No, she's saying what the common sense answer is, well, first of all, look, it's the internet and everybody has an opinion. But secondly, hey, it's fair. People hold something incredibly dear, and they think they know how it should be, and it's not like that. It's fair for people to think that they were done wrong. It doesn't mean they were, ultimately. Ryan's a filmmaker, and one person can't dictate how a film is supposed to be, but freedom of expression, sure. So there, I think that's pretty obvious to me that, one, she's not discrediting anyone who has a contrarian view of episode 8, and two, you might infer from that she's not too far from it, and we may find out that Mark Hamill was not alone in his dislike. Mark is also, I feel like he's not a. You remember how Shia LaBeouf was out bad-mouthing Indiana Jones 4, like right before the movie came out, and right initially when the movie came out, and Harrison Ford and others were quickly going out there and basically telling the kid to shut up. That's not what you do. You don't do that. You don't go out there and bash a movie like that. Well, nobody was telling Mark Hamill not to do that. You never heard anyone in the cast of Episode 8 ever contradicting Mark Hamill publicly. It's almost as if Mark was sort of the unofficial voice of, and this could all be in my own head, this could just be between my ears, but that Mark might have been the unofficially elected voice of the cast saying, you know what, we're not wild about this either. Now, it doesn't mean everything, every character, but the main thrust of that. And I'll tell you, I sent this out to our little Jedi Council on email. What is the name of those little Galaxies shorts that they've got? The animated shorts that they show up on Star Wars.
Adventures. Galaxy of Adventures.
Galaxy of Adventure. And there was this, and I really like I think I'm all caught up because my daughter loves that anime style, but it's basically little moments from the Star Wars saga redone in sort of an animation style, and it's fun. And they did one where they kind of were sort of leading up to Episode 9, the end of the Skywalker saga, and they go back and they show these key moments from Episodes 1 all the way through 8. And, of course, it's like a 2-minute, very quick thing. And it's amazing how brilliantly they string together all the films, and they create this really nice, very efficient arc as one character sort of fades out and another character fades in as they tell this story. But when they get to Episode 8, the only thing they really show is Luke training Rey. So he kind of becomes the Obi-Wan character as these movies are sort of summarized in this animation format. And to me, it was just like interesting. Like as far as, again, this could be happening just between my own ears, but our takeaway, at the end of the day, our takeaway from Episode 8 should just be that, yeah, Luke trained Rey. Mm-hmm. Luke trained Rey.
Right. And it removes the reluctance and all of that because it just shows the thing. And this could be something, though, that gets reinforced in Episode 9. And I certainly hope it does. I hope Luke comes back and has some sort of revelatory moment with Rey and gives her what she needs.
Wouldn't it be great if he came back and she's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, well, I promised you 3 lessons.
Mm-hmm. And your third lesson is watch me kick some ass.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, there's that goofy cut scene, which is just absolute ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
So technically, we never did see the third lesson.
No.
So it would be a great opportunity for JJ to come in there and show us what we missed.
Mm-hmm. That would be, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see, how it all unfolds. Again, we might be looking at events in Episode 8 in a whole different light with a whole new, fresh perspective after we see Episode 9. I certainly hope so.
Yeah, me too. Me too. All right, it doesn't stop there. More Daisy Ridley, this time on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon.
Yes, now this is a great clip. I love this clip because Daisy reveals how she first heard the plot and the story of Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker.
JJ was like, hey, want to meet up? I was like, sure. I was like, yeah, I want to hear the story.
So J.J. Abrams, the director, writer, calls you up and says,
my friend.
Your friend?
Yeah.
We're okay, friends.
Yeah. He said, you want to meet up? I'll tell you about it. I was like, sure. This was a few months before we started.
Yeah.
And we were in a public, cafe.
Yeah.
And he fully told me the story start to finish.
No.
And he was speaking at a normal volume. And I was like, people can hear us.
Yeah.
But regardless, the story changed. So, he told me the thing, and then a few months later it changed.
It did. And were you happy with the ending?
Yeah, it's epic.
So she's talking in some big terms about what we can expect from Episode 9. And Daisy doesn't seem like the type to really sugarcoat things too much. She seems like a relatively straight shooter. And I think that if she didn't have good things to say about Episode 9, she would say nothing at all. Because after all, she is out promoting an entirely different film. She's not on a publicity tour for Episode 9 right now. So I think that if she wasn't feeling good about it, she would have just said, let's not do Star Wars questions in this interview. But no, she feels optimistic and good about the way it ends. And also keep in mind, if you listen, she says that the ending has changed from the one that JJ presented to her originally. The story has changed. And those changes came late last year after Lucasfilm and JJ Abrams wisened up and reached out to George Lucas and said, what can you give us here to make this film a satisfying conclusion to the saga itself? So I thought that was pretty cool.
You just gave me goosebumps right
there.
You gave me goosebumps.
That's how it's all going down right now. Yeah. And that gives me a sense of optimism. And so Daisy, obviously very emotionally connected to the saga. Like we heard her saying on Good Morning America, it was pretty emotional for her to finish shooting and wrap up her experience with Star Wars.
I wept.
Wow.
I was in embarrassment.
Really?
I can't remember a thing. Because everybody had to do a rap speech. And John rapped just before me, and I was like, oh, no. And then
like a rap speech?
Like when he rapped, not like a rap.
Oh, W-R-A-P.
Okay. W-R-A-P.
It's a rap.
It's a rap.
Oh, I thought everyone had to get up and rap.
No.
That's interesting.
And then JJ gave the mic to me, and that's basically all I can remember. Because I
really?
For a while.
So, just basically reiterating the stuff she said on Good Morning America. But the reason I want to play it is because, of course, Jimmy Fallon started saying, you rapped? You did a rap? So as things naturally happen, one thing led to another. And Daisy Ridley actually does throw down with some hip-hop. She raps on The Tonight Show to Lady Marmalade. And this is the version from Moulin Rouge. And I thought it was pretty impressive to hear Daisy Ridley showing off her rapping chops.
Yeah, we come through with the money and the garter belts. Let them know we bout that cake straight out the gate. We independent women, some mistake us for hearts. I'm saying, well, I spend mine when I can spend yours. Disagree, well, that's you, and I'm sorry. I could keep playing these cats out like Atari. High heel shoes, getting love for the dudes, for the badass chicks, for the Moulin Rouge.
Oh, some lyrics in there I wouldn't hear, Ray necessarily singing.
Just do that.
Daisy, yeah, fine.
Yeah, right.
Marmalade. So she's got.
Well,
chops.
I can't help it when I hear that, and then I automatically think about Natalie Portman and her great rap. You remember that?
Oh, on SNL.
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Uh-huh.
All right. He was on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. He's out there. There's a new Shaft movie out.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Sam's in it, so he appeared on The Late Show recently to promote that. And, of course, everyone knows, especially after seeing him on stage at Star Wars Celebration Chicago, Stephen Colbert, huge Star Wars fan, and he didn't really necessarily bring Star Wars to the conversation. He just asked Samuel L. Jackson a very innocent question, and of course that unleashed that opened the Star Wars floodgates.
Is there a character you'd like to go back to that you haven't had a chance to?
I'd really love to give one more run at Mace Windu in Star Wars.
Now, do you see a way that he survived the attack of...
There's a long history of one-handed guys in that were Jedis that have lightsabers that still make it.
But he fell out a window and everything.
Jedis can fall from incredible heights and not die like cats. What are you talking about?
Canon. That's canon right there.
I think that... I really think that we're going to see it. I think it's going to happen. I don't think he can keep going around and making these overtures. Plus, as we know, Samuel L. Jackson does not age.
Well, that has been a bonus because it's been 20 years since Episode 1. And, if they're going to do a Mace Windu spinoff, they better do it soon before, Sam starts knocking on the door of 80 years old. He just turned 70 not too long ago.
Did he really? Oh, my gosh, it's amazing.
Yeah. But you are right. He definitely does not he does not show it so much.
For sure
he
not.
Does. Yeah, he does. He has maintained an incredible consistency with his look over the years.
Well, I mean, it helps when it's like Steve Martin. Steve Martin went gray. His hair turned gray when he was in his 20s. So he'd always been a gray-haired dude.
Yeah.
So, it helped him. And Sam Jackson has always had the shaved, dome. And I think, as I can't remember. I mean, he's worn wigs
the
and
wigs.
and
when
stuff
you think
like
of Pulp
that,
Fiction, he was wearing
Right.
that Jerry curl. But, and they did de-age him in the Marvel's Captain Marvel movie. So, there are things you can do.
You had to de-age him?
Yeah, because that movie was set in the 90s. Captain Marvel.
Okay.
So
I see.
That takes place in the 90s. So, yeah, they did a little de-aging, but probably very minimal. I mean, what kind of work did that be? Like a very easy day for the CGI guys.
Well, so did he look like Mace Windu? Because Mace Windu appeared in the 90s.
No, he looked more like Nick Fury. Because, the goatee and the patch over the eye.
Right.
Certain Nick Fury look. I could see him turning back the clock and playing Mace one more time, or even Mace in the future. Did he survive? He said Jedi are like cats.
That's right.
They can land on their feet
from incredible heights.
Oh, geez, it says here. I'm just looking at some Samuel L. Jackson information.
Yeah.
Net worth. Samuel L. Jackson's net worth is $220 million. Woo!
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
Man, bringing home the bacon and frying it up in the pan.
It's unthinkable.
All right, we got one more here for you, and I'm just hoping that I'm reading this right.
Yes.
I really am hoping.
Right.
So this is what Jim's given us here. This is from the London Telegraph. Seals taught to bark the theme tune from Star Wars.
That's right. Look out, John Williams. We have seals barking the main theme to the Star Wars films. This is what the Telegraph has to say. Seals have a natural bark, but researchers at the Scottish Oceans Institute, or, of course, as you and I most commonly know it, Jason, the SOI.
Of course.
At the University,
the mug.
Yes. At the University of St. Andrews, they've trained seals to copy sounds outside of their natural repertoire, which is mostly arp, 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 arp. Okay? That's what seals do. But it's incredible the way they've trained this seal to bark the main theme to Star Wars. Now, what we're going to hear in this audio recording is a simulated seal sound of the Star Wars theme, and then you'll hear the seal itself copying the artificial seal call. So at the very beginning, you won't hear a seal. You will hear a simulation of a seal, and then you'll hear the seal itself. Okay? Everyone
All right,
following?
I'm ready.
All right,
Yeah,
here we go.
yeah.
Let her roll. Yeah!
Whoa! Oh my God!
He nailed it!
Incredible. We got to hear that one more time. So the first part is the synthesizer.
Yes.
To communicate the sounds to the seal, and then the seal parrots it back.
Right.
Seals it back. A parrot. Here we go.
Right.
Wow. A little pitchy there at the end, but for the most part,
All right.
fantastic.
All right, Simon.
Yeah.
Pitchy my ass. That was amazing. That's a seal, for crying out loud.
Incredible.
Rancho Obi-Wan is home to the world's largest Star Wars memorabilia collection, as recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records. Become a member of Rancho Obi-Wan right now to get exclusive access to tours of Rancho Obi-Wan hosted by Steve Sansweet, invites to special events, and more. Plus, you can also make a difference and help Rancho Obi-Wan grow with a simple donation of $1 or higher. Visit RanchoObi-Wan.org now to get the latest news, become a member, or make a donation. RanchoObi-Wan.org.
And as we mentioned before, here to tell us about the big memorial service for the late, great Peter Mayhew, our old buddy, Star Wars artist, and also he's the owner, he's the sales guy, he's the stock boy, he's the chief cook and bottle washer of Norse Legion. Mr. Kevin Lyle joining us. Kevin, always great to have you.
Thank you. That's a great title.
Radio.
I didn't think I clean the floors too here at Norse Legion.
There's no job too small for a guy 8 feet tall.
6'5", Jason.
Okay, 6'5".
Yeah, I was thinking about it. The math didn't seem right there.
Yeah.
But
all right, 6'5". Still, I envy you. So Kevin, you just got back from where was it in Texas? Is it Dallas or Dallas?
It's in the Dallas area. Peter lived in a town called Boyd outside of Dallas, and the service was more in proper Dallas. It was just north of it, a place called Addison, at a Kavanaugh Flight Museum is where the service was, and that was on Saturday.
Wow. So what kind of a venue is that? Was it sort of a banquet room, or where they have you all?
It's a series of hangars, and they've got a bunch of World War II aircraft. They got aircraft from World War I all the way up to the present, but it was mostly a lot of World War II aircraft. Your B-25 bombers and your they had a Spitfire from England and so forth, and it was just in the hangar they had this big open space where they had a bunch of tables, and there was about 300 of us at the service, which ran for a couple of hours, and it was a great event, and I was extremely honored to be invited by Peter's family.
What was your connection with Peter?
Well, I had done a lot of shows over the years, as both of you guys know, and especially up in the Boston area. There's a show called Super Mega Fest that I do a lot, and I always had a table where the actors sign and stuff, doing my thing with the art and so forth. And a couple times I've done it right next to Peter, and I got to know him and Angie that way. That's actually how I got my copy of the Star Wars holiday special. Someone gave Angie, who's Peter's wife, gave her a copy of it, and she came over and was talking about it. And I was like, I haven't seen that since I was a kid. Is it bad as everybody says it is? And she handed it to me. She goes, here, you can have this one. I took it home, and she was right. It was horrible. It's just a horrible, horrible thing. But Peter made a funny joke about it, because I go, I go, well, what did you think of it? He's like, the check cleared. that was Peter's response. He's like, he got paid for it, so he was good with it.
Yeah, but still, I think he would probably think of it as a little bit more than just your average gig, because there he was again on a set with Harrison Ford. So it kind of, sure, joking aside, I think Peter probably had pretty fond memories of the holiday special and all that.
Well, he was a little upset because the guy who plays Molly, Molly, because his wife was a guy, was an actual 7-foot basketball player, which he said kind of ruined the romance part of it. But and I've interviewed Peter a number of times, and I became friends with the family years ago, and I'm actually working with them on a show they have in December, which will also have another service for Peter, another memorial for him in December. That convention's called Empire Con, and that's in. That'll be in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that one. That one looks mega cool. There's all kind of original trilogy actors who don't typically sign here in the States. I often see those names pop up at shows in the UK. But Empire Con, it seems like they're bringing up a lot of those Cantina alien actors, the ones that are still around, and they're going to be landing at Empire Con.
Yeah, and there's going to be, we'll be doing some programming, and I really shouldn't say anything about it. I'll be doing some things there as well. And if you have ever followed me at conventions, you know what kind of stuff I do, so you could probably put it together from that as far as what I'm going to do. But it's going to be a great show.
So the memorial service, who organized that?
That was organized by the by Peter's family, the people who work with Peter, the same people who run the Peter Mayhew Foundation, which is still a foundation that's not going anywhere. They're still raising money for charities. They raised a lot of money at this memorial, and it's still going. And so it was run by Ryan Ziegler, who's Peter's manager, and Angie, of course, was in part of it. She spoke, of course. And does that answer your question?
Well, yeah. So I mean, it wasn't like it was definitely part of the sort of the official send-off of Peter Mayhew through the family. It wasn't some sort of rogue kind of spin-off thing. And
and it was and it was done really well. It had they had there was a dinner there, and everybody was dressed nice, and it was a bunch of people came up and spoke. Albin Johnson was there. He spoke. A bunch of people from the Peter Mayhew Foundation were there, and they spoke. And then, Mike Quinn, Nine Nub was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a few other people, a lot of 501st members from the Star Garrison, which is the Texas Garrison. They were there. And it was a great event. And it really, Peter touched a lot of people. Yeah. And he really was a nice guy. And I know everybody says that about, but he was a really nice guy. And it wasn't just, he didn't make the Peter Mayhew Foundation just as a lark, just to be cool or get attention. He did it to help people. And they raise a lot of money for a lot of charities. And they don't just give to one charity; they give to all of them. I don't think any charity's off the table for them. They do a lot of great work.
Well, and at these types of things, once someone has passed on, then it's opportunity to tell stories and remembrances of things that you might not have heard when they were around. Were there any stories that surprised you that you heard from the speakers?
Well, I don't want to start getting too deep into people's personal stories, but there was one gentleman who came up who I didn't know, and he's not in the Star Wars community, but he was a friend of Peter's, and he got in a lot of he was in New Orleans when Katrina happened, and Peter and his family did what they could for him to get him out, and he told his story, and it was a really personal thing. I guess at the time, this was 15 years ago, I'm not exactly sure where the Mayhews lived at the time, but they had a place closer to New Orleans where this guy was able to evacuate out of the city and get a place to stay. And it's just he's a very caring man. He really was a gentle giant, as a lot of people were saying about him.
And a lot of people are wondering how Angie's doing. Obviously, it's a very difficult thing. How does she seem to be holding up?
She's holding up, and Peter was a very important person to her. Of course, they were married. She loved him. They loved each other deeply, and she was, of course, very sad. And but she's holding it together.
Yeah.
She was she's a very nice lady.
Yeah, they've been together. They've been together. I was surprised at how long when I learned. They've been together for 20 years, I think.
20, yeah, I think 20 years. I think they got married like in the 90s.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I remember that. I thought that she was fairly recent on the scene, but they've been together for a long time. Peter became an American citizen. I know that was very important to him as well. He thought very, very highly of being an American, and so go ahead.
He was sworn in 2005. They spoke about that, about the ceremony, about him coming in and swearing and becoming an American. And that was in 2005 in Texas. So he's been an American for 14 years.
Yeah, it's a pretty rare thing to get a Brit become an American by choice.
Yeah,
we fought a war to make that happen. Just chose to do it.
He didn't hold that against us. I don't think.
Right. And
Kevin, you mentioned the guy who played Nine Numb was there.
Mike was there.
Mike Quinn. And I seem to remember Peter telling me that he wasn't really a big fan of Nine Numbs because of the fact that Peter always believed only one person should have been sitting in that co-pilot seat.
Chewie was a two-week character, meaning that if it didn't happen, if the character didn't work within 2 weeks, it could have been a totally different co-pilot to the Falcon.
Wow.
Are you aware of any other options for a different sort of co-pilot for Han Solo?
No.
God, I hope not.
What? Do you want me to lose my job or what?
Well, I was just thinking that if Chewie didn't work on the set, they would have to come up with a solution somehow.
Yeah, and look what they came up with. There's Lando and Num Num.
Oh, yes.
That's true.
We're flying the Falcon. So what do you want?
How does that make Chewie feel to see someone else sitting in his seat?
Pissed.
Did Mike say anything about that? About any sort of rivalry between?
No. He didn't speak. Obviously, he was a close enough friend that he felt that he needed to be there, and he, of course, he was. I guess you're right. There, he was a co-pilot of the Millennium Falcon. The last time we saw the Falcon in Jedi, I never thought of that.
Yeah. So, I think Peter always felt like Chewie was the only one who should have ever been sitting in that seat. So, if anything, I was just wondering if they had sort of
for the record,
or anything.
For the record, when Chewie was the co-pilot, there never was any damage on the craft like there was with Lando, and he took off the dish.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, that might not have happened if Chewie was there.
They took some hits from those asteroids.
But let's not forget that L3 was the original co-pilot of the Millennium Falcon.
What? So, who? Let's not forget. Listen to Jason. Let's not forget that L3.
Yes, L3.
Let's be very canonical.
I will tell a funny story about co-piloting though. We were at Peter's house before the service, and we all went in separate cars to drive to Addison where the service was. So we left Peter's house, and as I was going, I asked Albert Johnson if he needed a ride, the founder of the 501st. He was there, and so he rode with me and Glenn Nelson. You guys all know Glenn Nelson, of course. And
musical director of Rebel Force Radio, Glenn
Nelson. He was in the back seat, so I was driving, and about 2 miles from Peter's house, I got pulled over for doing 57 in a 35-mile-an-hour zone, and the cop pulls me over, and I'm like, "Damn it! I haven't got a ticket in years." And so the cop comes to the window, and I accidentally handed him my military ID and not my driver's license. I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry," And then I gave him my driver's license, and he looks at it, and he's like, "Oh, you're from Connecticut, I see." He goes, "What are you in town for?" And I go, I'm in town for Peter Mayhew's memorial service." And he kind of shook his head, and he's like, "I've never met Peter, and he's a great guy, and it's so sad that he passed." And then he goes, Peter's a great guy, and then the 501st, they're a great organization. They've run charities in the area, and they're really appreciative. And I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Well, because the 501st founder is right here in the front seat." So he let me off with a warning, and the warning is this big written piece of paper. It's about like a CVS receipt and it has all the information of what I did and my name and whatever. So I kept the ticket. I'm gonna paint a Chewbacca's bandolier on it, I think. And I don't know. Maybe I'll donate it to the you know what I'll do? I'll donate it to the Peter Mayhew Foundation. Maybe we can raffle it off or something. But
thank God he lets you off the hook, though.
But not only that, he let us off the hook. We were kind of joking about it because after he gave me the warning, he started thanking me and thanking Alvin for all that we've done for Star Wars and charities and stuff like that. So when was the last time you got a ticket or you got pulled over for doing 22 miles over the speed limit and a cop is thanking me? And it was just it was a pretty funny experience.
Well, that reminds me of I don't know if you guys remember that actor comedian Jay Thomas would every year he would come on the Late Show with David Letterman during the Christmas season, and he would tell the true story of when he got pulled over with the Lone Ranger Clayton Moore in the back seat of his car. This is kind of your own. Google it, YouTube it, whatever. It's a great story, and Letterman loved it so much he'd have him on every year. But it's very, very kind of a similar thing. But at any rate, so at some point, Kevin, in the course of the proceedings, you ended up touring through Peter Mayhew's private collection of Star Wars memorabilia,
which I was shocked about. They had mentioned earlier in the day, they're like, "Hey, you got to check out the Chewie room," and I'm like, "Okay, that sounds cool. Let's do that." And then towards because after the service, we went back to Peter's house, and later in the night, I asked Matt Egan, one of the members of the Peter Mayhew Foundation. I was like, "When can I see this?" And they grabbed the curator. His name is Tom. His last name's escaping me, so I'll just make one up. But Tom is the curator of the museum, and then I started realizing that this wasn't just a room, and there's a separate building all to itself on the property that is just this big room that's the size of almost a basketball court, and you go inside of it, and it's like a museum, and it's got a series of racks full of Chewie memorabilia, and it's just everything you can think of with Peter. And Chewbacca, there's every toy you can imagine, every statue, every kind of coffee cup, and then there's my favorite part was the actual medal that he got from Carrie Fisher in '97 when he got that medal on the MTV Music Awards.
He got the Legend Award on MTV.
And that's there. That's like the first thing you see when you walk in, and then they just had just a bunch of memorabilia. And it was really cool to see it. I thought of you guys, and I sent pictures to Jimmy about it because I know Jimmy, of course, is a very impressive Star Wars room himself.
Oh, shucks. Nothing compared to what the Wookiee has in his Chew-seum. Hello.
Is that what they call it?
No. And as a matter of fact, I'm taking great liberties. That is a name that my friend Sky Payne calls his Chewbacca collection. Sky Payne is a fellow Star Wars podcaster who hosts the Vintage Archive podcast, the Kivecast, he calls it. And he has a huge collection of Chewbacca stuff, and he calls his collection the Chew-seum. So I couldn't resist saying it. So
there's a wooden sign over it that says the Chewie room.
The Chewie room.
And that's what it's officially called.
It was extremely impressive. Glass cases filled with all sort of great Chewbacca memorabilia and unique stuff too. Items, there was a card signed to him by I think it was Gary Kurtz and a picture of himself of Peter fully in the Chewbacca wardrobe with George Lucas. It was some weird Japanese ad for something, and I think Chewie was holding a big bouquet of flowers. It was really weird.
Yeah, it was that Sony ad that Lucas did back in the late '80s.
Yes.
And I didn't know this, but Chewbacca's in it. I just figured they got a person to play Chewbacca. It was the real Chewbacca. It was Peter Mayhew who did that ad, and they filmed it out at Skywalker Ranch back in the '87, '88, and then they had this huge poster for it. And Angie was able to get that at a convention a couple years back. It's a beautiful piece. It's got to be like 5 feet by 4 feet. It's enormous.
It's a great collection, and the care and love that Peter put into preserving all of those Chewbacca pieces of memorabilia is really heartwarming. But the most heartwarming thing I felt when looking at some of those photos you shared with me was Peter had on display all of his convention badges from over the years. And I thought that was pretty cool because he'd been to so many of those conventions, but he felt connected to the event enough to keep a little memento from each one of them and preserve it and display it. So, it's not like the guy is just doing his job and punching a clock and, going to the conventions and working. Peter really, I think, treated each one of those events like a real experience for him and part of his the fabric of his life, I always felt that about the guy, about his connection to the fans and just the way he always participated in all those events over the years. It was more than just a job.
Yeah, he loved going to them. And, one thing his family was saying, and I didn't know this, he has an incredible memory. And he would remember people would come up and go, "Oh, I met you in Denver." He's like, "Oh yeah, 3 years ago, it was April or whatever." He apparently had a really great memory.
Yeah,
and he would remember all these stories and all these the things that people would give him. And a lot of the things in that Chewy room, they were fan made stuff, things that people would give to him at conventions. Socks that looked like Chewbacca and bandoliers, and a lot of people would make the medal from A New Hope that he didn't get. People would make their own and give them to him. He had an entire shelf full of those, just medals that was given to him by fans. He was really loved by the fans. And
he was,
and he loved them back.
He always remembered me, which I was always very surprised about, because I would approach him. And, I'd be like hustling him for an interview or something. And like the volunteers at the autograph halls or even Angie herself would be like, "Oh, no. And then he'd always say, no, he's okay. He's all right. And I felt like, good, man, good. I'm accepted by the Wookiee. And it was always just a very good feeling. And then, of course, the last time I saw him was after we saw Rogue One on its premiere night. And all the Star Wars celebrities were out at that event. And we were at the bar after the screening, and Peter was getting pushed by in his wheelchair, and as he was getting pushed by me, he grabbed my wrist. And I was just like, oh, my God. And so he even remembered me in that moment, just in passing. I'm sure he wasn't thinking, oh, well, there's Jimmy Mack. But, there's that funny kid who always chases me down at the conventions looking for a few words from me. There he's again. And so I know what you're saying, that he definitely did have that memory for people and fans.
I do I was flipping through these photos that you sent, Kevin, and I like this one. You got a shot of all the different autographs, or a lot of the different autographs that he has hung on his wall. He's got one of Carrie Fisher, and it's a very famous photo of Carrie dressed in her Hoth gear, and Chewie cupping her breastular, and she's making a surprised expression. Well, I'm just saying that's what it is. You can buy this at official pics, but I love the.
We all know the picture.
We all know the picture. All right. So, would you like me to describe it again more slowly this time? No. So he's got the Carrie Fisher autograph displayed, and it's to Big Pete. Get well soon, if the rapture doesn't come.
Yes, I remember that one.
Oh, man. Well, we've got a story in our news section about, she finally, Daisy Ridley finally spilled the beans on what she actually said or heard from Carrie Fisher during the big hug in episode 7.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Did you haven't heard this? You're going to have to listen to Rebel Force Radio this week.
Well, I usually do. I do every week.
I know you say that you listen to us while you're drawing and painting and doing your artwork.
I do. I was doing artwork for, my company. Every year we do an episode, 7, 8, 9, whenever we do a shirt each time, and I'm actually working on that right now. And that's why I was listening to last week's show, because I missed it because I was out of town in Dallas, of course. So I was listening to it today while I was doing the artwork of that. And I can say it's a Luke piece. It'll be Luke.
Oh.
It will be it's a shirt. It's a shirt that my company wears when we all go out to see the movie when it comes out. We did one for We did Luke as the Godfather for The Last Jedi. We did a BB-8 Buffalo Wild Wings logo.
Okay, I remember the Luke Godfather one because I think you posted a picture of that online.
Yeah, that was pretty popular. And
is it Shorty Robe Luke?
No, it's Luke from The Last Jedi. It looks as he looks today, as this one does too.
I do notice too that Peter Mayhew does have a framed photo of the Wookiee family there from the holiday special. He's got them all. Yeah, there they are. Wow. It just doesn't any less
his
weird.
One great on-screen romance.
With the 7-foot-tall basketball player.
Equally cool, though, is the pin that you put together for the event. That was a really good-looking pin that you made, Kevin.
Thank you. That was Ryan had reached out to me just before it was made public that Peter had passed, and I immediately, that's what I do as an artist. I start coming up with visual ideas, and I came up with that. It was just it's like that memorial pin we see for either breast cancer or soldiers or POWs or whatever, and I just decided to do it with Chewbacca's bandolier.
Yeah, the ribbon loop.
And we actually gave them away at the memorial service, and so it was cool because everyone was wearing one at the service. Great. All the speakers, Albin Johnson had one on, and it was just great. I'll make sure that each one of you gets one.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah,
whoa! Not all your listeners. I meant you two, Jason and Jimmy. I don't. Come on. I don't have 200,000 pins.
This isn't like that time you bought drinks for everyone at RFR Live on the South Side.
Oh God, yeah, I remember. There's $210 to tell a joke. That cost me. I still have people thanking me for that. I get a message every once in a while. Someone says, "Hey, thanks for the drink, Lyle."
Good.
Well, tell us, Kevin. You're a man about the country. You're always doing various shows and hosting kinds of things. What's coming up on the schedule? Summer is convention season.
It is. I have a bunch of shows. I'll be at Keystone and where else? Fan Expo in Boston, both in August. But the big show I'm really looking forward to is ICC in September, which is held September 13th through 15th in Nashville. And that's a great show. I was there last year. I hosted all the Star Wars events. We did a Star Wars trivia contest, and that was a great success. And then we did a bunch of panels with a bunch of the Jabba's aliens were there. And this year is going to be even bigger. We've got a lot of people coming that have never signed in the U.S. before. A lot of actors from the original trilogy. Gerald Holm will be there. Now you got me in the spot.
Squid Face.
Alan Flynn's going to be there from Empire. Yak Face will be there. Jaquil will be there. It's got a lot of great actors are going to be there. You can go on their site icnashville.com or just look up ICC Nashville and you can find it. And it's in Nashville and it's a great show. And I definitely recommend everybody coming. I think Jason and Jimmy, you guys may not come.
It's possible.
It's possible. It's possible.
It's a possibility. Nashville is my adopted hometown. A big fan of it, and
they got a Johnny Cash museum. What's not to go wrong with that?
Oh my God! Are you kidding? I know.
Nashville's amazing, and they also have an incredible barbecue and all sort of good music. Hammond B3 organs wherever you go.
I went last year, and the day after the show, I went with Steve Sansweet for the whole day. We went to the Hermitage, which is Andrew Jackson's home and museum, and we went there for the day. And then after that, we went to the Johnny Cash Museum. So I spent the whole day with Steve Sansweet, and it was that was pretty cool. So he won't forget me.
Well, if we go there, I want to buy both of you guys a drink sitting at the bar at Legends Corner. You guys familiar with Legends?
There's all kind of great bars there.
Yeah,
now,
what
is this?
What
one of those legendary
Legends?
Nashville places that Hank Williams used to play at and stuff?
Well, it's even better than that because what would happen is these guys would be playing the Ryman. It's right by the Ryman Auditorium, and these guys back when the Grand Ole Opry was at the Ryman, you'd have Willie and Waylon and Chris Christopherson and Merle and all these guys, and they'd be playing the Ryman. And in between sets, they would sneak out the back door and go to Legends and sit at the bar and, toke back a few and then run back and get on stage. And
Nice.
so that was their watering hole while they were working.
But those guys won't be there now. But you know who will be? Daniel Logan will be there.
Oh, we'll find him at the bar. No problem. He'll be sneaking out of the convention center.
Well, you said that. I just meant he's going to be at the con. I didn't mean he was going to be out.
Hey, listen,
gallivanting.
Daniel is he's a family man now with lots of responsibilities. And
that's right. He's a parent now. Congratulations, Daniel.
Gone are the days. Well, I shouldn't say that. But I've been meaning to get an update from Daniel, and we just haven't been able to connect. But
come on down to ICC this September 13th through 15th in Nashville, Tennessee, and you can come see him.
And Kevin, the best place to and by the way, we're not done with you yet, but let's get all the formalities.
You're not done with me yet.
No. We've got something special planned for you, but
God, what is this?
I don't know.
How many drinks am I going to have to buy now?
No. But the best place for people to keep up with what's going on with you, I believe, is Facebook in Norse Legion, right?
Facebook, Norse Legion on Facebook, or just Kevin Lyle. I'm the only Kevin Lyle on Facebook. That's a great way to find me. And I get about probably 3 or 4 times a week, I get a new person coming on. I'm a Rebel Force Radio listener, and I think you're awesome. And please buy me a drink next time we're at Celebration. And
Liell, not Lyle. Okay,
yeah,
we get a lot of that.
It's German, not English. It's German. Leo.
Liel. Something we've been doing recently, Kevin, is we've been bringing back our Yoda questionnaire. You don't know if you remember this, but we did this many years ago.
Is it like the James Lipton thing?
It's the James. Well, yeah, it's the Yoda thing now for us. But this was sort of our spin on the old Inside the Actor Studio show. And before he would let a guest go, he would give them this famous questionnaire, some kind of hoity-toity thing. And but we Star Warsified it. In fact, our old buddy Pete Nadel, he's the one that created this, and he Star Warsified it many moons ago. And so I don't think we've ever given you this quiz.
I don't think so. No.
So we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it right now because you're actually the perfect guy for it. You might even be too good for it because of what you do with the whole trivia thing. But we're gonna lay it on you here. So I'm gonna start with something very basic, very simple. What is your favorite Star Wars line of dialogue? Your favorite?
Oh, that's easy. That's easy. Not from a Jedi.
What?
When Anakin goes, is it possible to learn this power? And Palpatine just looks at him and goes, not from a Jedi. That's my favorite line.
Now, why is that your favorite line? Because it's more of a response than an actual statement.
Because it's so freaking evil. I love it, man. I just think it's a great scene.
All right, let's. Can you do a good impersonation of Palpatine delivering that line?
No.
Well, I can. So strap in because here it comes.
I could do a better Palpatine when he's Sidious than a better Palpatine.
All right, check this out. This is Chancellor Palpatine. All right, not from a Jedi. Huh? Almost sounds just like him. Okay, next question, Jason.
My little green friend.
What is your favorite? What is your least favorite Star Wars line? See what we're doing? We're going the other way. What's your favorite line? What's your least favorite? There's got to be a line, even though you love these films, that just makes you cringe.
I think it would be lazy for me to say every single thing Rose Tico says. So I'll just give you a line that she says.
Okay.
And that is the I want to punch this city in the face. I think that was my.
She doesn't. She says like it's more to the line than just that, though.
And then anything else, like the whole, we're not going to win this war by killing the people we hate. And I'm like, well, how the hell do you win wars? I mean, I was in the Army for 4 years, and that's not how you do it. But anyway.
You defend the things you love, Kevin. Come on.
I don't know. I only saw the movie once. But.
All right. So, Tico. Boy, she's coming up later, I'm sure, in this questionnaire. What Star Wars moment, of all the moments, lots of great moments in Star Wars, but which one makes you smile every time? And not when Rose Tico gets blown up.
She doesn't get blown up.
My favorite scene has always been.
Crash?
She crashes, but then
dead. I'm like really, really hoping.
No, I'm pretty sure I saw a picture of her in episode 9.
That someone put those roses to bed. That's what I'm hoping. That's my truth. But anyway, in answer to your question, my favorite scene in Star Wars.
Your favorite moment.
My favorite moment in Star Wars is when Vader grabs Palpatine and throws him down the shaft. He's like,
what's this? What's this Palpatine thing? It's Palpatine. Palpatine like saltine. You say Palpatine.
I said, oh well, I misspoke. Palpatine.
Oh, all right. But you've said it like 4 times now. So is it like a thing? Is it like Hoth Hoth?
I don't know.
Han?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Palpatine. Am I wrong? Isn't it Palpatine like saltine? Like the cracker? Teen.
I used to, when I was a kid, and I'd never actually heard anyone say the name. I only read it at the very beginning of the Star Wars novelization, Star Wars from the Adventures of Luke Skywalker. And during the prologue, they call him out by name. And I thought it was Palpatine. And so I called him Palpatine. The ambitious, here it is. I have the book. I always keep it handy. The ambitious Senator Palpatine caused himself to be elected president of the Republic. He promised to reunite the disaffected among the people and restore the remembered glory of the Republic.
Wow.
Palpatine.
Palpatine. I think I used to read that in my head as Palpatine as well. And then when it was Palpatine, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. Sorry, Kevin. The moment that makes you smile is Vader chucking Palpatine down the chute in Return of the Jedi.
When Vader finally stood up to him and said, "That's enough."
Does the no thing bother you? Does that bother you? The new no? No.
Yeah.
Wow. No. How different would that scene have played out if, as Vader was holding Palpatine over his head, getting ready to chuck him down the shaft?
I know what you're going to say. And
then Rose Tico crashes her ship into Vader and says, "That's not how we're going to win. Not fighting what we hate, but saving what we love." And she kisses.
I thought you were going to say something else. I thought
that would have been different.
Jimmy, I thought you were going to say like he grabs Palpatine and he just goes like Anakin. He goes, "Yippee!" Yippee!
Yippee! Well, he says that after Rose makes her big entrance and kisses him.
When he's flying down the chute.
Then he says yippee, and then he jumps. He's holding Palpatine, and he jumps and takes Palpatine down the chute with him. And then Rose goes, "Well, that wasn't how it was supposed to work."
All right, Kevin, what Star Wars moment or scene makes you sad?
Sad?
Yeah, chokes you up a little bit. That would be if Kevin Lyle had emotion. I know this is putting you
cold as ice.
Tough spot.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like. No, I would. Padme's funeral, I think, is pretty sad. And you got her nieces walking behind the horses or whatever you call those Naboo things, and they look all. The whole family looks sad. That's kind of a sad moment, I guess. That's
yeah, but Boss Nass looks really sad too.
Yeah, he does.
He's very mopey.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking at my Japor snippet right now.
Yeah, and they show the necklace that Anakin made for him. Yeah. And that's kind of sad.
That does bring it full circle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't need this to remember you by. Meanwhile, she's getting choked to death on the Mustafar platform. Going, I knew I should have thrown that stupid necklace away.
I always had a theory, and I don't know if you guys ever talked about this or anybody else really. I always felt that he killed her on Mustafar, and what kept her alive.
Okay, hold on.
What?
We have a voicemail that I want to play before we even get into this.
Well, I didn't even know this was going to happen, but this is happening right now, right? This is happening.
Are we done with my questions? Is that what the last question?
No. This is a tangent.
Yep.
This is a tangent. And
it's a Rebel Force tangent. Okay.
Yeah, and you really just like opened up the door. I mean, just wide open for this voicemail here from young Owen. His father Adam sent in this question from him.
Here we go. I got Owen here. Let me crank this up here.
Hi guys. guys. It's Owen from Seattle. I was wondering how Padme died in episode 3. I love the show, and also shout out to Puppet Lando. Hello, what have we here?
Owen is the best. Owen, we love you too, buddy. And
wow,
so,
that just worked out well. That was exactly what we were talking about.
It really does. So Owen, metaphorically, virtually, we're going to have you crawl up on Uncle Kevin's lap, and he's going to tell you the story of how Padme died. Take it away, Uncle Kevin.
Okay, little Owen, how you doing? This is your favorite Uncle Kev. I think that Anakin did strangle her and for the most part, kill her. And Luke and Leia being inside of her and being so strong in the Force is what kept her alive. And when she delivered the babies, they were no longer with her, so she lost that power to live. And the droids didn't understand it. She is simply losing the will to live because she's no longer connected to these two Force-powerful babies. And once they left, she died. So she was basically being kept alive almost by like an artificial machine, and that being the Force. So Anakin killed her on Mustafar, and she was just kept alive because of Luke and Leia.
It was almost like the will of the Force to make sure Padme stayed alive long enough to be able to deliver the new hope to the galaxy, Luke and Leia. So once she had achieved that task, and yes, with the the M word, the midi-chlorians that coursed through the veins of Luke and Leia, that also had an effect on Padme, in a sense, making her strong in the Force. Once she gave birth to the twins, she no longer had the Force flowing through her, like Kevin said. How did you feel? Kind of like we're on the same path, Jason, or do you have a different assessment?
I don't. I love what Kevin said. I had never considered that, or at least I had never considered it the way Kevin articulated it. That is a much more satisfying way to look at it than anything I've heard before. In all seriousness, I think that is absolute dynamite. I really wish that was canon. That's going to be Rebel Force Radio canon as far as
It's canon for me. It's canon for me. It makes total sense. I mean, the fact that she died from a broken heart. I mean, all that she's been through, and she's going to die from her boyfriend becoming a bad guy. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, please, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I feel like that to be true to the character of Padme, in my opinion, what she was showing signs of there at the end before he started choking her out was she was telling him where to go. I mean, I think that to be true to the character, Padme would have picked up arms against him. She was such a believer in the cause, in injustice, and all of that. I don't think for one second that she would have humored him at all. I think she'd have chopped his head off if she had to.
I believe that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Head chopped off.
Yeah. I think she would have looked at it like she was saving him from himself. But I think she was absolutely a true believer.
What if it came down to something like that? How heavy would have episode 3 had been if she tried
Poor
to
Owen's having nightmares right now.
Poor Owen. Poor Owen. No, Owen gets it, though.
Yeah.
And I'd like to congratulate Owen's parents on the wisdom of naming the little boy Owen. I think it's a great name.
Yeah,
I think he's going to grow up to be a great farmer in Seattle. Well, they don't need
moisture farmer.
In Seattle, they don't need moisture farmers. So look at how great of a job he's doing. Look how much moisture he's bringing to Seattle. This little Owen, my little nephew. What a great kid.
Oh, man.
I'd like to thank Owen for reaching out to us, and I hope that was a suitable answer. But there is no real answer, and that's the beautiful thing about George Lucas's Star Wars is he refused to define things. And nowadays, it seems like everything has to be defined. There's no room for interpretation or personal analysis anymore. George has made some comments recently over the last year in some interview he did with James Cameron that I felt like he was getting too close to being definitive about certain things that went on in his Star Wars universe. And we know that was a huge trend for Rian Johnson. He went on an explanation tour after The Last Jedi came out. And J.J. Abrams, I think, has been a little bit too forthright with some of the things that went into the mixing bowl for Episode 7, especially when he was asked that question about Leia not hugging Chewbacca and just saying, well, it was an oversight. I don't want to hear that. Make something up.
Yeah.
You know, BS us. Like, I mean, Lucas would do that. He would just be like, oh, let's see what I can throw into the stew today. And he would come up with some sort of, he'd just say things to maybe occasionally troll us, but he never was too definitive when it came to aspects of his Star Wars. Yes, Kevin.
I have an answer for that one, too. Chewie has had a background in Star Wars of helping people who are medically hurt. C-3PO, end of Return of the Jedi, when Han goes, Chewie, get down here. Leia's hurt. Why would you say that? Because Chewie's going to come. He's got the little pouch there. Who knows what he has in there? And he probably helped Leia through her, being shot in the arm as she was at the end of Return of the Jedi. I felt that he was rushing out of the Falcon with the injured Finn, who was injured enough that he was in a coma up until the beginning of the next movie. So I think it was just, he was too preoccupied with helping Finn.
Yeah, on the gurney.
Just, if I was sitting there rushing with Jason's corpse, and God, that'd be terrible. But if I was rushing with Jason's corpse somewhere,
what the hell just happened?
I'm not going to stop and hug Jimmy Mack. I'm going to take care of Jason's corpse.
You wouldn't have to though, because Jason would disappear upon death, leaving only his saddle shoes,
his French cuff shirt,
and his French cuff shirts, his saddle shoes, and
one of those little cigars, one of those little tiny Jason Swank cigars.
One of my banditos. All right, Kevin, let's pick up where we left off before we were so rudely interrupted by Owen.
Oh no, stop it! And hey, congrats to his dad, Adam, for being an awesome Star Wars dad.
Yeah, that was great. Voicemail of the year.
We should send Owen something. So if Owen's father's on Facebook, if you can just track me down, send me a message. I will send you a Norse Legion Star Wars care package.
I have to. Oh, that's nice.
See, Kevin, he's like Santa Claus.
He is.
Well, I'm Uncle Kevin
Claus.
I'm Uncle Kevin now.
Yeah, right. Uncle. Yeah, well, he's family. Yeah,
because I can't get the kid a bunch of drinks at the bar. So I'll get him. I'll send him some Star Wars stuff.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Awesome.
No blue milk spiked by Greedo for young Owen. We're gonna have to come up with something better for him.
So, Kevin, which Star Wars character is your all-time favorite? I think
Darth Vader.
Okay,
yes.
I thought you've been on record before. You're not shy about it. Darth Vader's your favorite. And when you say Darth Vader, do you mean the totality of Vader, Anakin's Vader, or just Darth Vader?
Just Darth Vader, but I like Anakin too. I'm really, I'm reading the Thrawn book right now, the newest one, but I keep hearing Matt Lanter's voice when I read Anakin and not Hayden Christensen. I just thought that was weird. I just noticed that today.
Well,
when he's talking, I hear Matt.
Hayden's voice is very nondescript, whereas Matt has like a real action adventure star quality to his voice.
I also think that Timothy's doing a really good job of catching that humor that we saw in the Clone Wars with Anakin and his dialogue, so it just naturally fits with what Matt Lanter does. I think if there's a scene where there's Anakin, no offense, whining and screaming, they'll probably think of Hayden Christensen. Maybe that's what'll happen.
You know whose voice I hear when I read Anakin in books?
Rip Taylor.
No. Sebastian Shaw.
Really?
Yes, but only when he just had the mask taken off, where he's like, "Go, my son, leave me."
Only when he had the mask off, as opposed to all the other times Sebastian Shaw spoke in Star Wars.
No, I mean I could have, dipped into his actual acting career and found other non-Star Wars examples of what his voice sounded like.
I've never seen him in anything else. I really should look into that.
Oh, you should. I mean, he's a very celebrated actor. He's done all kinds of things.
Oh, sure, yeah. He was like, what was he, like 80 when he played that part?
Yeah.
So he had a huge career before that.
Oh yeah. I mean, many people know him as Grandpa from the Chernobyl made-for-TV movie in 1991. That's a big deal.
Yeah, they used the same makeup for him in Chernobyl that they used in Return of the Jedi.
Tell Gorbachev he was right.
Don't mind my legions.
All right, where are we? Oh, we've got a couple more here. Least favorite character in the Star Wars universe?
What was I going to say? I mean, that's obvious. Rose Tico.
Wow. Are you really going to waste your vote on Rose Tico, though? I mean, there's so many more Star Wars characters to not like.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of evil characters out there.
I see the question. I see the question out. The character I don't like. Okay. I don't have a character I really don't like. I only have a character that I freaking hate. Is that a better answer?
Yeah.
Okay. I hate Rose Tico.
All right,
Kelly Marie Tran's a great actress. And I thought it was great when she came out in Chicago when we were all there a couple months ago. And she came out and the whole crowd was screaming, Kelly, Kelly. I thought that was great. And I was applauding too. I have nothing against her. And I think she did a wonderful job playing that part. She was just given a very bad part. I don't like the character.
Yeah. I'm not gonna disagree with you, really. I think if they would have let more Kelly Marie Tran shine through that character, it would have been much better off.
That character, for the most part, could have also been played by a male. And if they gave that part to me, Kevin Lyle, I would have hated the part. I would have hated it. Even if I played
running
that
around
part.
kissing Finn at the end.
Yeah.
Kevin Lyle.
Mm-hmm.
I could see it. All right.
Yeah.
What job?
I kind of like it.
I kind of like it.
I knew that was coming. What job would you most like to have within the Star Wars universe? So if you woke up tomorrow, like Gulliver's Travels, but yet Star Wars version, because you'd still be a large man in the Star Wars universe. You woke up and you were in the Star Wars universe. What job would you most like to have?
Oh, Palpatine's, definitely.
Well, I don't think they like run ads like that.
You can't apply for Palpatine. You don't apply for Emperor of the Universe.
Okay.
That's not how it works.
It's got to be more. It's got to be more of a
like there's a profession.
There's 1,000 years of manipulations going on behind the scenes, so Palpatine can finally rise up and rule the galaxy. You don't just walk into that gig.
Okay, so you're talking a more obtainable goal. I guess I would take commander of a Star Destroyer.
Wow, you're really...
Jeez, that's still shooting high. Now, keep in mind, Kevin is a military man.
This is
He's,
true.
in the real world. So
I could see
that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think, in any good way that you can officially kill people, that would be up my alley. That would be fine.
I'd be working tables at Canto Bite. That's what I'd be doing. I'd be a dealer and, living large off my tips. And getting my freak on with some crazy aliens every once in a while. That would be fun.
I mean, if you want to say, like, there is a job in Star Wars that I think would be most geared towards what I have done as far as the military, and that would be the Death Star gunners. Those guys you see, shooting the guns at the X-Wings, because that would be basically air defense artillery. I was an air defense artillery scout in the Army in the 90s, and so we would shoot surface-to-air missiles. Our quote was, "If it flies, it dies." So maybe that's what I'd be best trained for. I guess would be one of those guys.
That's awesome.
I'd rather be command a Star Destroyer.
So me and Swank would be like Fode and Bede then, if you want to apply real world.
I don't care what universe you're from. That's gotta hurt that guy.
Yeah. Those guys.
All right.
I'd be the one going, oobla, blue, blah. And Swank would be putting together sentences. And I'd just be like, it's like, he's not speaking Huttese.
No.
He's drooling, too. Crying out loud.
All right, Kevin, which job would you most not want to have in the Star Wars? What would be the worst job for you?
All right,
Other than Rose Tico.
Do you want to just set up some rules? like you did with choosing Emperor?
I will if you have a bad answer. Then I'll be forced to.
I would imagine that somebody at Jabba the Hutt's palace has to clean Jabba the Hutt and his area around him. So that would probably be the worst job. Just somebody's got to. As much as Jabba likes being gross and disgusting, there's got to be somebody who's cleaning something.
What do you think does that? Is that the job of like a Reese or somebody who's in there with like baby wipes and stuff? You know.
Oh, man.
I don't know. It's something not good. Not good at all.
I was at the zoo a few days ago, the Cleveland Zoo, and the elephant. It was towards the evening, and the elephant was out, just cruising around right before he had to go in and go to bed, and he dropped one just right there. I mean, and it was just the sound of that hitting the floor was just unbelievable. And that's kind of what I think about, like Jabba the Hutt.
And just remember, that elephant doesn't smoke and drink. So just add that on. Imagine that elephant was a drinker and a smoker. Just imagine how disgusting that creature would be.
And there's a bunch of pizza boxes behind that dais there that he's sitting on.
That's right. Oh, all right. Last one. If you got cast in a Star Wars movie, Kevin Lyle, in a Star Wars movie, and it just happened to be directed by George Lucas, it was his big return back to the director's seat of a Star Wars film, and you're in the movie, and George says, cut on your last scene. What would you most like to hear George say to you, Kevin Lyle?
Would it be too cliche to say, I thought that was the perfect speed and intensity?
No one's ever given that answer. That's a great answer.
That's
a great answer.
That's a good one. But in reality, it would be, cut. Do you have Dennis Lawson's phone number?
I actually do. I actually have his number.
Can I have it?
Yeah, sure. Let me look it up.
That's how it would be.
It's right here on my phone, actually.
Yeah, he probably still owes George like $7. George's still hunting him down for it.
So we're waiting for Dennis Lawson's phone number as Kevin Lyle looks it up on his phone, and he's going to give it to us now, live on Rebel Force Radio. So
sure, I'll give it right now.
Everyone get your smartphones out and be prepared to program in a new contact, Wedge from the original trilogy. Go ahead, Kev. 555. Remember on TV, all the fake phone numbers used to be 555.
No, we're all friends here at Rebel Force Radio, and I'll give it out if you want me to. The number is 708-52.
That's my number. Stop! Shut your hole. Shut your hole. Wow.
And just call that number. Call that number. And you'll get any Star Wars stuff you want. Jimmy's got a huge room full of stuff. Wendy wants it out of the house, so just come to his house. Let me give you his address too. His address is.
Oh my God, Kevin!
I have contacts too, Yeah,
I should watch out because you guys have a daily outreach there that you can just give all the information to me out. Thanks.
Yeah, right. That's right.
No.
And yeah.
We wouldn't do that. Only to our Patreon members.
Yeah, right.
I can't wait to hear this when it plays back to see how much of that number you bleep out, because I don't think I gave all of it out.
Pretty close. Pretty close.
You teased it. I'm fine. He calls.
Enough that, if you were like, with just a little bit of patience, you might figure it out. You just try all the rest of the combinations. You're only missing 2 more digits.
Yeah, there you go, 99 shots.
Kevin Lyle, thank you so much for being with us here at Rebel Force Radio and sharing your stories of the Peter Mayhew Memorial, as well as your incredible take to the Yoda questionnaire.
Thank you very much. And thank you, little Owen.
Thank you, Owen. All right.